All right, we're live. I think the video is working this time. Let me see if I can see it on my own channel. This is my first time live streaming from my phone, so we're gonna have to see if this is working or not. We're live. All right, yes, I see that I'm live. Okay, great. Well, welcome to Fingtem Languages. Today I wanted to do a video. Sorry, let me turn this down. Today I wanted to do a video about some of the language learning programs, apps, websites, different systems, CDs and such that I've used in the past for language learning. And I thought it'd be fun to work with you guys and kind of work through some of this stuff and see how we're gonna rank these programs from highest to lowest. So I already have some of my own opinions. I know you guys probably have your opinions, and you guys have probably used a lot of apps and programs that I've never used. So this will be fun just to kind of work through and come to some sort of consensus. So hello, Gustavo, Rasmus, Bowler. I don't know how you pronounce that. But hello, welcome, please clap. Yes, I know I'm an early bird. Actually, 10 o'clock is not that early. Roy Johnson, buenos dias. Thanks for commenting, guys. So, I guess without any further ado, let's just get into this. First I want to talk about a few popular language learning programs that I don't have much experience with. Hello, Alan from Brazil. And some that I just don't personally like. So first of all, I feel like the biggest glaring hole in my repertoire for language learning programs is I've never used italki before, which I feel like is probably one of the most popular ones, and probably one of the most beneficial, just from, that's just speculation because I've never used it, but I feel it's like probably it's one of the most beneficial language learning programs that I've never used before. So, I don't know, have any of you guys used italki or anything similar to that? Let me see if, I use Speaky to chat with natives. Never used Speaky before either. The closest thing that I've used to any of those... Alright, so what's the difference between italki and Speaky? I don't think I've even heard of Speaky before. Or maybe heard about it in passing. The closest thing I've used to any of these are HelloTalk and Tandem, both of which I've really liked. But that's a different style, it's a different idea. You're not paying a native speaker just to speak with you. You have to find your own pen pals or buddies to chat with you online. And then you have to, a lot of times, pay not with money, but you pay with your time by helping them practice the language that you're learning. Alright, for your target languages, Spanish and French, there are better options like Lingoda. Also never heard of this, Lingoda. So why don't you go ahead and, if you could just leave a little comment or something about what this app is like. If I keep looking over here, it's because I have my laptop set up. I guess actually I could move it a little closer to the camera so I don't need to look away. But that's why I keep looking down. I'm reading comments from people that are commenting. Alright, I've never used italki because I believe you don't need to pay in order to learn a language. If you find the right source for you, just go for it. I can see where you're coming from with that. There's a lot of free resources online, a lot of good ways of learning for free. There are a lot of really good paid apps and programs too, though. And I feel like if you're really serious about learning, then you shouldn't be afraid to pay a little bit if you're going to get a higher quality program. There's things like Duolingo, Memrise. They're both, useful in their own way. Duolingo is great because it's free. I certainly wouldn't pay for Duolingo. There's much better programs out there for paying for language learning than Duolingo. But because it's free, it's a great way to start. You know, there's no risk involved. You don't have to sign up for a monthly program or anything like that. All right, we have Lingoda offers both group and private classes. So group classes make it affordable. Also, sometimes they have challenges. You should create a language learning app. I was thinking about studying in information sciences or computer programming or one of those things when I first started studying linguistics, because I was interested in working with apps and stuff like that. Gosh, this is kind of trippy. I'm watching myself record this video in my phone, and then I look down and it's just delayed on my laptop. So it's like throwing me off every time I try to read comments down here. Let me see. I'm going to hide the video of myself so I can just see your comments. If I can figure out how to do this on my Mac. There we go. Because I don't want to be watching exactly what I did 5 seconds earlier. Alright, so anyways, italki, you're paying a little bit of cash to speak with native speakers, and a lot of them are actual teachers. Some I think are not actual teachers, they're just native speakers, but then they charge a little bit less. Sounds like a great program. I don't have any experience with that app or that website, so I'm not going to speak at all about it. I'm not going to rank it. But I think if I were to give it a try, I probably really would have loved it. Alright, I like to practice English with online games. We gamers don't have to pay to find native English speakers and have fun with each other. Yeah, that's great if you're learning English, but for people who are learning most other languages, it's a little bit more difficult. Of course, you can find games as long as you're learning a language that's relatively common. Which brings me to another thing I wanted to mention about this video. I'm going to be ranking different language learning apps, programs, systems, but they have to be designed for language learning. So for example, I use Wikipedia a lot for just reading in my target languages, because there's just tons of material out there. Reading about articles that are interesting to me in French and Spanish and stuff, but it's not designed to teach you languages. In this video, the rule is I'm only ranking programs that are designed for teaching you languages. Alright, I play Skyrim in Spanish. Yeah, actually, I've heard that Skyrim is like one of the best games for learning foreign languages. And I've never done it, but I would like to. I'm really looking forward to the new Elder Scrolls game that's coming out for mobile devices sometime soon. Alright, I like to practice English with online games. We already mentioned that. Alright, so as of right now, I don't have a specific order in my head for any of the apps, but I guess we'll just go start working through some of these. Have any of you guys used Amikumu? Let me pull it up in here on my iPad. Amikumu is an app designed to help you find people in your area. It's loading right now. This is what the logo looks like right there. Sorry if you can't see it. It's that blue AM. And it's designed to help you find people in your area that speak the language you're learning. I guess you guys probably can't see that at all, can you? I've only used it for Esperanto, and I think it's mainly for Esperanto speakers. Yeah, I think it would just work better with Esperanto, but it also exists for tons of other languages, and it might work really well for other languages. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it. But essentially, it just, I don't know exactly how it works, but you receive little messages from people that are in your general area. It takes your location, and it helps you find other people within 50 miles or 100 miles that are speaking the language that you want to learn. Works great for Esperanto because almost everyone is a second language speaker of Esperanto. which means that almost everyone is trying to find other people to learn Esperanto with. Of course, it's going to be a little bit different with languages like Spanish or French because you know, native speakers aren't going to be really going on the app and looking for other native speakers to find. They probably already have other native speakers to speak with. But Amikumu is nice. You know, I'll find people. I've talked to some people from Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago, Green Bay, who speak Esperanto, and you know, just you chat with them online, or you find out about different meetups and stuff. And I find it to be a nice app. Definitely not revolutionary for my language learning. I don't know, have any of you guys used it? Let's see, we have Link is good too. You can learn phrases and words easily. Put names down in the comments. Alright, yeah, that's a good idea. Alright, I'm going to put Amikumu in here just so you guys see the spelling of it because it's kind of a weird... Huh, yeah, now I'm seeing my comments pop up too on my own thread, on my own feed. Alright, do you know Spanish? Yes, I know Spanish. Rasmus says, recently they had a challenge language marathon which lasts for 3 months. If someone manages to take one class every day for 90 days, he'll be fully refunded. Oh, wow. That's pretty intense. Around 180 euro per month. It's not bad if you're taking a class every day. And that is Lingoda, I assume, what you're talking about. Alright, anyways. Amikumu, nice app. It's fun. It's interesting. Nice way to meet new people. But like I said, not revolutionary. It's going to rank lower on my scale of apps that I use for language learning. We got Amikumu. Oh yeah, Hello Talk. This is another app that I mentioned to you guys earlier when I was talking about italki. Have you guys used Hello Talk? Oh man, I got this new light and it's totally washing out my iPad there. I'm gonna put this down here in the comments. Hello Talk. Hello Talk is pretty cool. It's just a way of connecting you with other people that are learning the language that you're learning, or people that speak natively the language that you're learning. So, you know, I'll just put in that I'm learning French in here on my profile. I wish I could get this better for you guys to see. Let me see if I can. Does that help it out? Oh yeah, look at that. There we go. Alright, so I have my profile here. I just write, hello, my name's Aaron. Sorry, I guess you guys can't see that. Hello, my name's Aaron. I speak Spanish and English. I'm learning Esperanto and French. And you know, then you have your little profile. It has what languages you're learning. And then you can find other people that are either learning the same language as you, or that speak the language that you want to learn and are learning the language that you speak. And then you just have, you know, a list of comments and stuff down here. Now, the comments feature is really cool. Let's see. So, I'm just going to really quickly show you guys if you can see it. This was just a really brief conversation I had with someone. It was basically just, hello, hello, how are you? And then I guess I was kind of a jerk and I never responded to them. The really cool thing is down here, if you can see that, there's all these different options for what you can do with the messages. So you can automatically translate them. You can save some of the words that they use. If they say something to you that you don't understand, you can click on the word and save it and have them translated, and then you have certain words that you're working on and stuff. It's really great. I love Hello Talk. It's amazing, isn't it? Yes. Yes, it is. Hello Talk is great. I haven't been using it as much lately, now that I have reached a higher level in French and I'm just in French class at university now. When I started learning French, I didn't take any classes for like the first 2 years that I was learning French, and then I just took French placement tests, placed into like the highest class that I could get into. And it's a different experience now that I'm actually in French classes. It's nice though. So that's a good way to connect with other people who are learning your language or that speak the language that you're learning. So in the grand scheme of things, Amikumu and Hello Talk have a lot of similarities. The difference being Amikumu is more based off of people that actually live in the general vicinity that you live in your general area. Whereas Hello Talk is just for connecting you with anyone. And most of the time it's going to be people that live in the country of the language that you're learning. If I'm going to be ranking them, and this is going to get tough because there's just so many good language apps out there that I really like. If I'm ranking them, though, I'm going to put Hello Talk as above Amikumu, just on usefulness for me. Because you can find anyone in the world, and especially in the country of the language that you're learning. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Babbel. I've used Babbel a little bit. Was never really a huge fan. So I'm curious if any of you guys have had good experiences with this or not. Let me see if okay, I re-downloaded it again, but now I gotta sign in, and I don't think I remember my login information, so that's not even gonna help. I tend to have a problem with apps like Babbel, Mango, that how would I say this? Well, first of all, they're only designed for brand new beginners, really. They're not going to be helpful after you progress to like a B1, B2 level. When you're actually trying to learn how to interact with human beings in your target language, and they're just still trying to teach you prefabricated phrases. Duolingo would fall into the same thing. Some people use Hello Talk as if it were a dating app. I don't like it at all when that happens. Yeah, that's going to happen. In those cases, you just ignore those people. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I get a lot of I get hit on by dudes a lot in these language exchange apps, and I don't know, it's weird. I just kind of ignore them and find someone else to speak to. Alright, some people use Hello Talk, yeah. Oh, Kevin Abroad, hello. Thank you for joining us. He says, OMG, is this actually happening? Did I not miss one of your live streams? Yes, I'm glad you were able to make it to one. Alright, Dark Knight says, it's a better version of Rosetta Stone. I'm not sure exactly. Are you talking about Babbel there? Because I was just talking about Babbel for a while. Oh yeah, Rosetta Stone is another thing that I should probably mention. I tried Rosetta Stone a long time ago, like maybe 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Didn't get very far. Didn't particularly find it to be super helpful. Now granted, this was a long time ago, before I really knew what I was looking for in language learning applications. Haven't tried it since, and it's really expensive. And there's a lot of other things online that are free or just much cheaper. Unless it's changed in the meantime. I haven't even looked at it for a long time, so it might have changed. Might be a cheaper price, might be a monthly subscription, I don't know. If you guys have used Rosetta Stone and you like it, or you had a bad experience or something, feel free to let me know. But I'm not even going to rank it in this one, because I don't have much experience with it, and I didn't really like it. Babbel is good, but the content varies a lot based on the language. For some languages, there are a lot of content, while not so much for some other languages. Yeah, I feel like you're probably going to get that with every app. You know, there's a huge variety on Duolingo between some really good quality courses like the Esperanto course on Duolingo as opposed to the Chinese one, which I did for like a day and I thought it completely sucked. Let's see, Babbel. Okay, yeah, Babbel then is like the Rosetta Stone. For Spanish, I just talk with the cleaning ladies. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Stay in a lot of hotels, get a lot of experience. All right, Rasmus says, not sure why you saved that Dark Knight. Babbel has problems with translation. Rosetta Stone is based off of learn like a child mindset. Yeah, that's another thing. I have an issue with learn like a child because you're not a child. You don't have a child brain. And your brain does not learn languages the same way that the brain of a child would learn languages. So that's misleading for sure. I'm taking a first language acquisition class this semester, actually. It's really interesting. You're learning how humans learn their first languages. And it's just not possible to learn languages the same way as children. Yes, Kevin, yes, you're right. We are not children. Some of us are. Children at heart, but not children in the language learning center. Hello Talk is so good. I made a Japanese friend through it. We actually met. I went to Japan and she made my stay all the better. But as anything in life, you have to pick and choose the people. Yeah. Hello Talk can be really great. Sometimes you'll find weird people on there. My school gives free Rosetta Stones. Tried it and it's trash version of Duolingo. Yeah. That's basically my opinion. Nothing special about Rosetta Stone. It's just kind of expensive and not great. All right, Voller. I still don't know how you pronounce that word, but there's a whole bunch of L's in this word. Says I like tiny cards and memorize too. Yeah, tiny cards and memorize I think are essentially the same thing, but I started to use tiny cards and then I realized that this is just Duolingo version of Memrise, so I'm just going to keep using Memrise, which I have more experience with. I don't know, does anyone know if there is a significant difference between tiny cards and Memrise? I would actually like to know that and hear your opinions. But Memrise I do have a lot of experience with, and I think it's great. It's not perfect, it's not all-encompassing, it's not exhaustive, but if you just want to learn new vocabulary at a steady pace, Memrise is phenomenal, in my opinion. And it's versatile, too. So, Memrise is really useful at the beginning when you're just trying to get words. You know, you're trying to learn how to say the, and, if, where, house, man, woman, dog, child, person, world, you know, the very basic vocabulary words in your language. It's phenomenal for beginning language learners because it's a structured way of going over your vocabulary words, and they send you reminders to practice every day. You're going to be more consistent if you're using this method, and it's just great. Now, after you have progressed past your A1, A2 level, and now you're actually trying to not just learn words and grammar, but you're actually trying to learn how to communicate with people in real life, it's still very useful. Even in English, I'm still learning new vocabulary. You know, I understand that the average speaker of English knows about 60,000 words, 60,000 English words, and that's a lot. It's hard to cram all those words into your brain, but I keep learning more every day, even in my native language. So it's super useful for languages that you're not native in, where you might only know 10,000 words or something like that. Even after you progress to higher levels, you know, you want to constantly be adding vocabulary. Even after you've learned all the grammatical stuff, you're gonna be much more competent with grammar well before you know all the words in the language. And I shouldn't even say it like that because you'll never know all the words in the language. Memorize is always going to be useful to you. So I'm going to put this one just for the sake of anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about. That's memrise. So it sounds like memorize without the O. Memrise. Alright, I tried Rosetta Stone for Japanese, and just the fact that it doesn't teach you the script is very stupid. Mango languages. Oh yeah, Mango is another one that I want to briefly talk about. Link. When are you planning on talking about Paul Nation's 4 strands? I know it can be annoying, but I think you'll enjoy it. That's why I'm pushing it. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in trying more apps and programs and stuff. Haven't tried it yet. I get a lot of suggestions for different apps and things, but I do intend to go through and try a lot of them out and review some of them. For French, I use 5,000 most common used words on list on Memrise. Very useful. Yeah, especially that's great for when you're just starting off learning a language. If you can learn the most common, even if you can learn the most common 1,000 words in that language, then you've just significantly increased your ability to understand anything. And if you can learn the most common 5,000 words, then you're doing really well. Because the most common, it's like a bell curve or something. Actually, I don't know if that's the right word. If you learn the most common 1,000 words, then I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but if you learn the most common 1,000 words, then you'll be able to understand like 75% of things people say. And if you learn the most common 5,000 words, then you're able to understand like 95% of the things people say. And then if you learn like the next 50,000 words, then you'll be able to understand everything else people say. And those numbers are probably skewed. I don't remember what the actual numbers are, but it's something really crazy like that. So you get a lot of reward for learning your first 1,000 words, and then it progressively decreases. So anyways, we're ranking these. I keep forgetting about my rankings. So far, in the apps that I've considered so far, I would consider Amikumu to be on the lower end of that. Then HelloTalk. Then Memrise, I think I would put above HelloTalk. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not. They're not. These are not really comparable language apps because they're just very different ends of the spectrum. You know, Memrise is just solely for just plowing through and learning vocabulary words, whereas HelloTalk and Amikumu are much more for getting like a social aspect of it. But if I'm just going to definitively rank them, I'm putting Memrise at the top of programs that I've mentioned so far. Rosetta Stone can be useful in a way in that associating things with the picture, because sometimes people associate new words to the words in their native language. Yeah, I get the value of that, but it's just not accurate to say that you can learn things the way children learn. For example, they hear word chien, that means animal, doesn't come to their that animal doesn't come to their mind, but rather D-O-G, or the pronunciation of it comes to their mind. Yeah, I totally get you. But not learning like a child. Yeah, agreed. All right, I found that Rosetta Stone can be useful if you have some grasp of the language, as in you are already a bit comfortable with the grammar, otherwise it's so confusing. I'm smarter than a dumb child. Well, that's good. Glad to hear that. Yeah, I shouldn't speak too poorly of Rosetta Stone because I haven't gotten to very high levels in it. It might become more useful once you are using a higher level of the program. But I just had like a demo of Rosetta Stone in like 8 different languages or something. So I learned like Chinese, Japanese, German. For like, I did like the first 10 minutes of each program. And I do remember one thing from that from like 10 or 15 years ago, and that's let's see, and all the German speakers are probably going to make fun of me for saying this wrong. It's something along the lines of Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Something like that. Like I said, it was 10, 15 years ago, but I remembered a little bit. And the V is spelt with a W, I think. Let's see. It's good to be smarter than a dumb child. I'm glad you can at least say that. All right, can you tell Steve Kaufman to give me free link? I can't tell Steve Kaufman anything. Actually, I did talk to him briefly when I was at Langfest, and I asked him about a change that I would like to see in Link, and essentially he was like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." So I was like, "Well, okay, I tried." All right, I use memorize for learning phrases and sentences. Words in isolation is not very helpful. I disagree. You got to know words in order to speak, and the more words you know, you're just gonna run into those words more often. It's this strange thing that happens. Like when I learn a new word in a foreign language, it's like all of a sudden I just start seeing this word every day, everywhere I go. I remember learning the word cotidiano in Spanish, and I hadn't really heard it before, and I was like, is this really a word? Learned it on Memrise, actually. And then all of a sudden, bam, this word is coming at me from every direction. And I was like, how did I just live my whole life without ever knowing this word? And it's literally everywhere. I just never noticed it because I didn't know what it meant until Memrise came along and I learned that word. All right. Well, if they taught you a word of German, then it's not that bad. Yeah. What did you want to change on Link? My issue with Link that I brought up to him is the way that they count words. You have to learn each conjugation of the word separately, and it's all a separate word. And I'm just like, if I already have learned the word trabajar, then I don't want to also learn trabajar, trabajas, trabajamos, trabajáis, trabajaron, trabajábamos. I just want to learn the word and then not see it again. But, it's kind of annoying to keep coming back to these blue words that I've already learned. Not a huge issue, not a deal breaker, but just a little bit annoying. I asked Steve about it, and he said that they weren't really worried about that. Not on the list of really pressing matters for them, at least. All right, I experienced the same. Maybe we just ignore words we don't understand. Once we remember them, we notice them. That's exactly what it is, yeah. I found Babbel and Duolingo to be kind of boring, too much typing. Yeah, I agree. And anytime you're just translating a sentence directly from the language into your native language, or vice versa, not super great. Which is kind of ironic because I spend so much time talking about how much I like Pimsleur, and that's literally all you're doing in Pimsleur. So how is that different? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a hypocrite. Where you live? I live in Wisconsin. Let's see. The difference between Duolingo... Well, first of all, in Duolingo, you get marked off even for making spelling errors, which annoys me because I guess it depends on your goals for learning your language, but I don't particularly care about making spelling errors that much. When I'm actually writing or typing the language, I'm usually just messaging people online, in which case spelling is not a huge issue. I much more want to learn how to communicate, express myself, use words properly, rather than making spelling errors, which Duolingo and other things mark you off for. Do you make cheese? No, but I like cheese. And I have a cheese hat. Being from Wisconsin, it's kind of a requirement. They give it to you with your birth certificate. So, speaking of which, Pimsleur. I love Pimsleur, mostly because I can do it while doing other things, so it doesn't take a ton of my study time. And also I use, show us your cheese hat. I'll bring up my cheese hat and I'll show it to you one of these days. It's down in the basement right now. Rosetta Stone, or Pimsleur. Okay, honestly, the reason that I love Pimsleur is because it gives me natural times to study throughout the day where I'm not actually impinging upon my free time or the other things I would want to do. Meaning that every time I get in the car, I'm listening to my Pimsleur CDs, okay? And if I tried to set up a schedule for myself to use Duolingo at a certain time every day, it's not going to happen. It's going to get to 11:30 or whatever time I set for myself to study Duolingo, and then I'm going to want to keep doing whatever I was doing at first, right? Watching TV or just being lazy, being a procrastinator. But with Pimsleur, every time I get in the car, I just study French with Pimsleur, okay? It's just a naturally reoccurring thing that I do every day getting into the car. Or if you put your Pimsleur CDs in the CD player in the kitchen, you can do it while you're cooking. I used to keep a speaker system, like an old computer speakers, in the bathroom, and then I would plug in my phone and play either music or Pimsleur or something like that while I was in the shower. You got to play it pretty loud so that you can hear it over the shower. But it's not taking up any extra time of your day, and you can do it while you're doing other things. So that's really great. I would rank Pimsleur as one of my highest language learning programs. So I would probably rank it above Memrise, because it's also helping you with your pronunciation, your grammar, and they're teaching you new vocabulary. They also teach you cultural things about the country where your language is spoken, and they will give you little notes in between just about usages, the right and wrong way to use certain things. You know, it's not always obvious when it doesn't match up perfectly with your native language. They'll tell you want to use the formal version or the informal word, you know. And so it's just useful. Whereas Memrise is great for one thing, vocabulary acquisition. Pimsleur is more all around. It does nothing to help you with reading and writing, but as far as oral spoken language, which is what I'm mostly concerned with, it just does more. So of the programs that we've talked about so far, I think Pimsleur is the highest one on my list. All right, Rasmus says, Pimsleur is my favorite. I love that they use native speakers, unlike some courses of Michelle Thomas, where non-native speakers try to teach the language. Plus, Michelle Thomas has a lot of English in it. My favorites: Link for reading, Tandem for speaking, Link/Films for listening. I used Memrise over the years, and I found that what Memrise was training me to do was to translate words from one language. Yeah, again, translating is not going to be the ideal way of learning vocabulary, but it's not terrible. It's not the worst. And also going back to what Please Clap said earlier, I think it was Please Clap, someone mentioned, talking about learning vocabulary in sentences and in context rather than one word at a time. This is true. Like, it's more valuable to learn language in context, which makes Link a valuable language learning tool, because you're learning the vocabulary as it comes to you naturally. But in those instances, you're not just able to plow through the vocabulary words that you want to learn, right? You have to wait for it to come to you naturally, and it's not as efficient. Now, it's going to help you remember the words better because you're making connections in your brain with the context and connecting it to the word. But I guess it's hard to really know exactly how to explain it. With memorize, you're just going to work and you're just pushing through the vocabulary words. And yeah, you don't have that context to link it and to really help it sink in better. But you can focus really narrowly on your vocabulary, and you can just have them keep coming to you as long as you want. You know, you can keep studying new vocabulary words as much and as often as you want, and you don't have to wait for new vocabulary words to come to you through reading. And of course, again, this is not to say that one is better than the other. They're all tools. You know, I say this a lot. The more tools you can add to your language learning toolbox, it's like arrows adding to your quiver, right? You're not going to go into battle with just one arrow. You want a whole bunch of them. And so let's go back to some more of these comments. Let's see. Do you agree with Steve Kaufman that listening and reading are more important than conversation? No. Well, again, it just depends. I guess I shouldn't say I disagree with him, but I don't think it's more important. Maybe not necessarily less important. I find conversations with people to be one of the most useful things for me. Now, again, it's one of those things where if I want to learn by reading and writing, or reading and listening, I can just sit down and do it. And just do it for hours and hours and hours on my schedule whenever I want. Conversations with native speakers, you're more limited to when and where and how you can do it. And it's important to have routines in language learning. And when you're relying just on conversations with people, how would you say, you're not going to get a reliable study time unless you specifically plan conversation time with other people, which goes back to when I was talking about italki. You know, that could really be a valuable insight, a valuable resource. I just can't talk too much about it because I've never used it, to my shame. Okay, to another language in my head, which is so nice. Okay, 4.5 million points later, I think I might be done with memorize for me. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be done with memorize. I actually think memorize kind of becomes more useful as you keep going through. Now, because there's different levels, you can go on and find memorize courses that are just designated for advanced speakers. And you're going to be learning words like verisimilitude and I don't know. I can't think of any really big words right now. You're going to be learning words like parochial and stuff that people might not even know in their native language. And you're just enhancing your vocabulary. All right, don't forget to put names down in the comments. Oh yeah, thank you for that. All right. I'm going to do that. I had hello talk. We talked about memorize, Pimsleur. Oops. Pimsleur. These are the ones I've ranked so far. Let's talk about Duolingo, because I know Duolingo is the one everyone's used. I'm going to put that in here too. Duolingo. Although I probably don't need to really say that one, since everyone already knows what it is. I assume, I guess, if you're brand new to language learning, then if you don't know what Duolingo is, you should check it out. Duolingo. Got some mixed feelings on this subject. I know a lot of you guys do as well. First of all, Duolingo is great because it's free. And you can go do the whole thing for free. right? There's no paywall that's going to block you from getting to the second level, like on, I don't know, most language learning apps. So if you're on a budget, Duolingo is useful. I do think Duolingo does kind of a disservice to people because it seems like there's a lot of people out there, even like a lot of people in the language learning community, a lot of my friends and stuff on Twitter and that talk to me on YouTube, that feel like all you have to do to learn a language is just keep following along with Duolingo. And that's not the case. It's like believing that if you just go to your classes in high school that you're going to learn Spanish. It's not about going to class. There's so much more. You have to, I mean, you can't just look at it as this narrow thing where as long as I just do this thing, I'm going to learn. Unless perhaps like maybe that one thing is like living in the country and speaking and interacting with people every day. If you do that, then you will learn. But going to class every day and just doing your homework and doing your tests is not going to teach you the language. Neither is Duolingo. So I just don't want people to be misled by that. Duolingo can be helpful, and it's a great way to start. A, because it's free. B, because a lot of the courses actually are just really good for beginners, learning basic grammar and stuff. Let's see, Memrise is charging more and more. Huh, interesting. But still, going back to Duolingo, there are different courses that have different quality. And I talked about this briefly earlier. I found the Duolingo Esperanto course to be phenomenal. All right, that was designed by Chuck Smith, who's a really famous Esperanto speaker in the Esperanto community. I also tried the Chinese one briefly, and I just thought it sucked. Like it was just not helpful. They're trying to teach you how to do the different symbols and stuff, and then they're trying to teach you the pinyin, and it was just a mess. And then it also goes back to the thing that we've talked about with just learning everything through translation from your native language. Not ideal. Unfortunately, that's something that just a lot of programs have to deal with. There's not enough. Apps like Link are good for not using your native language, but you have to have some basis in the language before you actually start using it. All right, Memrise is charging more and more recently. I noticed they don't allow access to some parts of the courses created by them unless the person has a paid membership. Interesting. I've kind of fallen off using Memrise a lot over the past year or so. So I'm probably missing some of that. I always found Memrise to be great. Now, I should say that Memrise is not the only good flashcard app. If it does start to become more of a paid thing, then use Anki, use Tiny Cards, use Quizlet. Right? There's other options out there, and I don't know. I shouldn't say that before looking into the exact details, but it's strange because one time I made a video called "The 5 Best Free Apps for Learning Languages" or something like that, and I put Memrise isn't free. Like way more people than for this just to be a coincidence, and I'm like, it is free. I've used Memrise for free for the last like 5 years. Never paid for it. And I just, I used it all the time. So it was just really confusing about why some people would say it's not free. But it was like a ton of people, not just 1 or 2 people that might be misled. It was like probably 50 comments. This is on actually my most viewed video on YouTube. And so just a ton of people were yelling at me that it's not free, and I couldn't understand why. All right, Duolingo is nice to meet languages for the first time, sort of get a feel for a language we're interested in. Yeah, I agree. And I've used Duolingo just to kind of dabble in other languages that I'm not actually interested in learning. You know, I've done it in German, Romanian, Swedish, Ukrainian, just to kind of just see, you know.